But I'm wondering, when did you know that you were spiritually gifted? Like, when did it
That's a
hit
good question.
you? And then also, I want, it's like almost a double question, because like that's a thing. Like, it's a lot of people in the world who coming into their spiritual gifts and they don't know what the fuck it is. They don't know how to navigate this space. So I think this conversation is important because it gives a lot of context for people who may be going through the same thing right now. So also at the same time, I want to know, when did you realize it? How did you navigate that space? And if you could give a word of advice for people going through that
Through
now.
it. So when did I know that I was spiritually gifted? And how did I navigate that? And what's my advice to people? Okay. This was loaded. That's my audience, okay? So when did I know? I was in college and already doing the podcasting, already doing readings, already, doing my own Botanica business, which is basically like a metaphysical store or whatever. Online though. I was basically like deep in the trenches with that. And I was dating somebody at the time who was also very spiritual. He was into music at the time. And he's a rapper or whatever. But we were just having like some really big, like deeply activating moments within the relationship. Anger or past shit from childhood, whatever. In college, it's just kind of normal shit that comes up.
Right.
But we're spiritual, so it adds another layer to the dynamic, right? And during that time, to be honest, what triggered it, I can't even tell you. I really can't. The best I can say was weed. That's it. And I've still smoked weed to this day. And I was smoking weed before that. And sometimes it happens now when I smoke weed. But to be completely honest, it was really just an activation of my gifts to its full extent. And if I'm being real with you, we were kind of going through a bad time in the relationship. We were thinking about breaking up. We were off and on pretty much at that time, trying to work on things, trying to get back together. And I was with him. It was like I was with him in Statesboro one day, and we were just having a rough time. Like maybe a month or two before that, I had a dream that he was in like this dark cloak standing over me and doing symbols over my body, right? And it was weird.
That is.
And it was after we had watched this like Vice documentary where it was just like some real demonic shit on there. It was looking at the people of Liberia. It's really hard to think about because I literally yelled for him. I literally closed my eyes and tried to plug my ears and told him to turn it off because it was really fucked up. Like, it was people in Liberia. It was a child. He was a child. He was like 13, 12 years old at most. And he was living with the freaking like warlords type of people, basically trying to make things work for himself. And he was on crack. He smoked crack. He was talking to them. He sounded demonic. He sounded like he sounded like he was possessed. And he was saying how he raped a pregnant woman. Trigger warning. And as soon as he said that, I was like, cut it off. Like, I was just like, turn this off. Like, I just felt like this ringing when he said that. I felt ringing. Like, what the fuck? That's how it felt. I don't know how else to say that. That's literally how it felt. It just felt like it was ringing throughout the room. Like, that's what I heard. That's what my body felt. And that night, that's when I had that dream about my ex-boyfriend at the time, putting symbols over me or whatever. And it was really complicated. And so I couldn't understand what was going on. I didn't know anything about it. I don't have elders at the time. You have to think about it. I'm doing this spiritual awakening alone by myself in college. I have my friends who are my peers. They're not elders. They have not mastered these things. They know about it, but they don't know everything. On top of that, when I speak to my family about it, they're super Christian. So they're not even really supporting me with learning about the occult, with learning about metaphysics. They're really kind of telling me, oh, it's demonic. You need to stop. But anyway, so we have that moment. I'm telling him about the dream. I'm telling him about all these different things. And he's listening. He's understanding me. But he's not experiencing it for himself. So he really doesn't know how to navigate it. He just thinks that maybe, okay, you might be a little crazy right now, right? So I have a moment to where I don't know what triggered it. It could have been an argument. It could have been anything. I was smoking weed at the time. But I had my first manic episode. if you are familiar with like bipolar disorder or schizophrenia, manic episodes means that a lot of times a real marker for me is that you can't sleep. At the time, I didn't sleep for like 3 days, however many days on end. And I actually drove back and forth to Statesboro during that time too, because he was out in Statesboro and I was in Savannah, and I was like an hour away. I drove to him like a couple times, but one time I drove up there to him. We was smoking, we was talking, and that's when it hit me, because he was listening to this podcast, and this dude on a podcast was just sounding real dark, real incel like. Even though incel wasn't a word back then, it's a word now, but he was just sounding real weird, real mean towards women, real all type of things. And I was like, cut that off. Something's wrong with that. Something wrong with him. And when we was talking, we was in the kitchen after a while. I was like, I think that's what it is. I think there's too many dark entities around you. You're consuming too much dark energy. That's what the issue is. And he was like, okay, whatever. He really didn't listen. He really wasn't entertaining it. And when I was driving home to Savannah that night, he was telling me how he had walked the Parkers and he was walking back and he had seen a being in the woods, and he hadn't seen a being in a while. Like when he was a child, he's a fire sign. Fire signs are known for being seers. They can see. That means that they can see ghosts, spirits, all of these different things, auras, because they're fire. They can see that. And he was saying he hadn't seen it in a while since he was a child, and he saw it now. And it was this tall man that looked intimidating, like it was gonna, like a demonic figure. And he said he hadn't saw it in a while. He was like, you're right. There is something going on, because I hadn't seen this in a while. And he shared things with me about his childhood and things of that nature. And I knew, yes, you do have dark entities around you, and you haven't cut it out, because you didn't know. You didn't know, especially as kids, when watching these cartoons, we around other kids that don't know better, that's going through trauma at the house. We take on this shit, and we don't know until we get into our consciousness and we're older. And so when he said that, he was like, you're right. And I was like, okay, I am right. I'm not, I'm not just tripping.
I ain't tripping.
That wasn't the end though. I was still going through a shamanic journey at the time. I call it shamanic journeys now, even though I didn't know what it was then. I was still manic, I was still manic at the time. So I still wasn't sleeping, and I was telling him, I'm like, I'm having these thoughts, I cannot sleep, something's wrong. So he sent me this like binaural beats, from YouTube to sleep to. I was listening to those binaural beats. I started having visions of people I was following on Twitter being pregnant, giving birth, all type of shit. Months later, that person did come out as being pregnant, and I was like, oh shit, okay. It was a bunch of shit that was going on, but I was like, okay, whatever. At the time, I'm just like, it was just a bunch of thoughts. But my family started to know, because I was living with my family at the time. It was like, something's wrong with you. You're not sleeping. You're not taking a shower. That was another thing. Sorry, y'all. TMI, but I'm not Snake right now. Don't look at me like that.
I ain't look at you no kind of way.
But I wasn't taking a shower. There was a lot of stuff that happened during that time. It was like, something's wrong with you. Like, something is wrong. Like, this is out of your character. What is wrong?
Right.
And I didn't want to tell him exactly what was going on, but I was telling him like in bits and pieces. And it was like, okay. And my auntie was like pulling my mom to the side, like, something ain't right. And so what was the straw that broke the camel's back? I brought my whole family into the living room. I was talking to my grandma at the time. My grandma convinced me to do it.
Yeah.
And you know how my grandma is. Of course, she would have said, okay, yeah, tell everybody this.
Yeah.
I brought my whole family into the living room. Started to tell all the family secrets. Who was gay? Who had childhood sexual trauma and abuse? All of the shit that we went through as a family. And I was speaking to them. I was like, this is what we need to do as a family, because this is what we went through and all of these things. And at the end of that conversation, my auntie was like, do you want to go to the mental health hospital?
Oh, wow.
Well, she didn't say it like that. She was just more so like, I think that you should. Do you want to go?
But why?
Because I was bringing up stuff. It was out of nowhere, Clay. It was out of nowhere. And I had not been sleeping. I had not been bathing. I had not been eating. And they noticed that. Like, how I ate before we came. You know I am. Yeah. This is out of my character.
Food. Yeah.
This is out of my character for me to be acting like this. And my aunt is in the mental health industry. She has a master's degree in psychology. She knows what the signs are. And she's just like, this is not normal. Even though you are seeing things that happen and that we as a family can benefit from, what is happening with you is not normal. And so I got admitted for a 48-hour hold. And that's when I knew, because prior to that, besides me telling my family about all of the things that they need to do as a family, I was telling them also that people were watching me, because I saw this white woman. I was being gang stalked at the time. Not everybody gets gang stalked.
What's gang stalked?
I'm sorry for saying. I'm about to explain it to you. Gang stalked is when you see people suddenly, like, not say following you, but seeming to be unnecessarily drawn to you. So at the time I was working at Best Buy, and I had coworkers around. My ex at the time, he was researching Satanism. And that was a thing that he was just researching. And he was close to getting into the music industry, so it was a very sensitive time for him to be researching Satanism.
Right.
Sorry, Clay, I know we getting real.
Yeah, we are.
I know we getting super real right now. So in Best Buy, now mind you, my ex at the time lived in Statesboro. I'm working at Best Buy, and people at Best Buy, like 2 people came up to me, my coworkers. Oh, what do you know about Satanism? Oh, I've been looking into it. It's so weird. I'm like, where the fuck y'all come from? Well, I've never said anything to them about this. So why would y'all come up to me and saying that? And then one time I was driving from Statesboro, and I was on the south side of Savannah, and some white man, he was driving next to me. He was in the passenger seat. He had something written on his hand. I didn't read what it say, but he was waving at me like real, like weird. It was something written on his hand. And I was like, that's odd. And then when I was going through my manic episode, there was this white woman, a white older woman with like blondish gray hair, and she was taking pictures of my house. She was taking pictures of my car. I saw this lady do this. Is not a hallucination. I saw this with my own eyes, and it spooked the fuck out of me. Like, what the fuck was this about? And that's what gang stalk is. I don't want to get into that because I'm not on no Jaguar white shit. I don't give a fuck about none of that shit. Really, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't give a fuck. These niggas know what time it is. I don't care. So for me, it's just one of those things to where it's just like, I was doing a podcast at the time, so I am in some way putting my voice out there, telling them people about these information and stuff like that. So maybe that was the reason, but I don't really know. I really think it was just being so close to somebody who was so close to getting into Satanism at the time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And to be honest, it was just like it. When we see like in the Matrix where people can be hijacked by what's the dude's name? Not the dude who is
Agent Smith?
Agent Smith, yes. Who can be hijacked by Agent Smith. It's more so like that, to where like some people, they're just
energy.
It's an energy thing. It's like they're very normal, nothing's wrong with them, everything is cool, but an energy can take over their frequency and they can just get really weird. They can get really weird, and they can start to feed information into entities that are more powerful than them, that can hijack them, if that makes sense. And one time when I was in fucking, what is it called, Whole Foods, it was super weird. This is after I got out of the mental health hospital. I was in Whole Foods getting one of those little plates of food, and it was so odd. Like, everybody was staring at me. I was like, why? I don't understand. I didn't have nothing crazy on. Nothing. It was just a really weird feeling. And I'm in Savannah, so you see black people at Whole Foods. This is not nothing crazy. You know what I'm saying? So obviously, like I said, and let me do the warning, because that could also get into how to help people.
Yeah.
But with those moments, that's when I knew that I wasn't imagining this shit. I knew I knew for a fact what I felt was what it was. And obviously, you know, you have to use your discernment. You have to decipher through the illusions, the deceptions, all these different things to get to the truth of it. Because sometimes the truth is not as elaborate as all this other shit that people put out, which is why I say I'm not on that Jaguar right shit. I don't give a fuck about all of that hypothetical coincidence. Look, let's get to the facts and actually focus on that, because I'm also a scientist and a researcher at the end of the fucking day. If the data doesn't add up, then I'm not going to continue to perpetuate that idea into my reality, because a lot of times that's the inkling of paranoia is enough to get a lot of people to fall to their demise. We see it every day. So for me, like, for moving forward with that, the advice was during the process when I was having my shamanic journey and everything like that, what was the thing that I repeated to myself? I want to say it directly. That's why, because I know what it means in summary, but I want to say it directly. It was basically something like your perception is your reality. The universe is mental. The mind is all. The universe is mental. The mind is all. That's what I was saying. The universe is mental. The mind is all. That's what I was saying. That's one of the universal laws, which is basically telling myself that whatever I think is reality is what it is. And I kept repeating that. And I did not let go of that. I did not let go of that. Because I knew that as long as I can control my mind, as long as I can stay grounded into who I truly am, that nothing was going to have power over me. I just knew that. Now, if you do something to me in the physical, okay, then you do something in the physical, and then I definitely have proof that there's some other shit going on. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, I'm not going to allow my own mind to desert me and have me put myself into a position where I'm suicidal or I'm putting myself at risk, you know what I'm saying, to being harmed by other people. So I will say that to anybody who is learning about the spiritual journey, because actually that's going to help you too, especially for those when you first get into your spiritual journey, you're riddled with fucking ego that needs to die. That's all it is. You're riddled with that shit. You're riddled with all these false senses of your own identity that have not actually been valid for who you are spiritually. And as long as you continue to tell yourself the universe is mental, the mind is all, you'll start to realize that you are creating your own fucking reality, even if that is to where you're shunning your family, your friends, because they're not as woke as you, they're not as conscious as you, they don't agree with the fuck you're saying and everything like that. Because I went through that too. Guess what? That's your perception of the reality. You're not seeing it for what it is. You're not seeing it for, this person has been Christian their whole life and they don't know what the fuck you talking about. And you're not relating to them. Because there is realms and aspects of spirituality that directly translate to Christianity that you could be speaking to them about, but you're not speaking that same language. You're speaking Spanish and they speak English now. That's the reality, not anything else. So it's helpful to remind yourself, like, the universe is all the mind, the mind is all, the universe is mental, because it allows you to have some autonomy and sovereignty in how you're co-creating. Because that's a lot of the aspect when you come into spirituality, that you feel like you're God, you feel like you're everything, this and that. But that feeling of it's only me in my mind is not the reality that you truly want. You know what I'm saying? When you notice like all this feedback about whatever's going on in your subconscious mind, and you feel like you're having all of these things kind of react to it without you even speaking a word of it, it's not as endearing as you think. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of isolating. It feels alone. It feels like, is this shit even real? And that can take you to the crazy house until you just stay grounded into your individuality and you realize, like, okay, look, what I'm perceiving as a reality is what it is gonna be. So that would be my advice. I'm sorry, that was long-winded and I told you a whole lot with that.
No. It makes a lot of sense, because, like, look, I've been through those phases as well. Like, when I first went through my spiritual awakening, I was getting all this new alternative information and knowledge. I went out into the world wanting to tell everybody. And then people were like, not, everyone wasn't receptive to it. Some people were, but most people was like, bro, you tripping? What the fuck you talking about? You know, and that shit hurt me. You know, it made me, like, understand that everyone has a different perspective. And my perspective isn't greater or better because it's different. And I just realized that everyone just has a different perspective. Whatever makes sense for them in their journey and whatever point they're in their journey, But that was a lesson I had to learn. Humility,
Oh, thank you. Because I was hubris as fuck in college. I was so hubris. And hubris just means that you think that you're greater than God. You think you're greater than the all-being creator. That's what that means. That means that you think that you are the one source God. That's what that means. Hubris is so many spiritual leaders' downfall. That's literally what it is. It's hubris. You're not humble. You do not understand that you're just as important as the speck of dirt as you are as the clouds in the sky. Yeah. You are all things. That is what God is humble. If God can be humble, why can't you be humble? What are you outside of that? Right. If God can be humble, but you can't be humble, what does that mean? Because if we think about, if we truly believe in God, if you truly believe that we do have a source and a creator, You don't think God is quite humble in terms of like the state of conditions of earth and saying, you know what? They're not my best. Everything is not the best, but you know what? They'll figure it out.
The words, they'll figure it out.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? That's a quite humbling experience. You have a whole earth that can create and replicate whatever the fuck, everlasting life on this bitch damn near. Obviously, things do die, but it all goes back into the earth. It has such a beautiful life cycle. And then these motherfuckers charging people rent. They charging people for water. They destroying the fucking forest. That's a humbling experience. If you as a human in this flesh cannot understand that, then you'll go through your Saturn return.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into that.
And that happens around like what, age 28, what is it, 20
Right.
until 30 or whatever, and then until like 31, 32, just depending on how old you are, depending on what your Saturn placement is. And then it happens again in your 50s, but you'll go through your Saturn return and you realize, oh shit, I don't have it figured out. I don't have it all figured out. I really do have to take it step by step. So
Right.